Guys, hi, Rod, just checking in for week 3 on the work with Tidwell's book on church administration. Our goal this week is to go through chapters 6, 7, and 8. And I just wanted to highlight some of the things, especially from chapter 6 and chapter 8, just a few remarks on chapter 7. But the first chapter for this week, administering human resources. In chapter 6, Tidwell's talking about leading and working with people in the church. And the point he's making in the very second page is the fact that, again, these are God's sheep, and we want to take care of them and approach them and address them and work with them like they are exactly who they are. They're God's sheep, not ours. And because they are His, we want to care for them the way He wants us to care for them. Sometimes that's some tough love. The author Keller wrote a lot about shepherding, and sometimes the shepherd, we didn't have to break the leg of a sheep that was very, very stubborn and wayward and ready to get itself into real trouble, unless he took that desperate action to keep that sheep away from going into risky situations. All that to say, yes, there is times for confrontation. I agree with what Maxwell once said back in the 90s as he was traveling in the 80s and 90s doing leadership seminars with pastors. He said 95% of pastors will not confront when it's needful. Now, if you go looking to confront on a regular basis, then you've probably got a problem. But there is a time and a place for confrontation, and it's strictly to be then guided by Galatians 6, 1 and 2. And all the Matthew 18 steps, but truly the need of all of us coming honest with others and doing that in a loving way is very important work in the ministry by pastors and church leaders, especially the need for pastors and church leaders to be proactive in being regular and meeting with their leaders to find out what's happening, needs to be responded to, and bigger church picture vision casting that needs to be exercised to help all the different ministry groups know their purpose and where they're going, but also how they can complement, help one another to achieve the total church's goals and objectives, purposes of our church. So those are the things that are being talked about throughout this chapter. He gives some very good insights, again, as far as them working with volunteer staff, and the fact that he really makes the point of Matthew 9, 36 through 38. Only God gives the leaders and the workers in the churches. We must be asking Him for them, and we must be then active in looking for the potential in each member and looking for those as God points them out that are ready to take that next step to get involved in certain areas according to the passions that He has gifted them, as well the experiences He's led them in, that's readied them, prepared them for a particular area of ministry and leadership in the church. I think one of the great things that can be practiced in every church is the fact that of affirming, applauding, appreciating. You'll get more mileage by practicing those 3 A's and developing that kind of a culture and atmosphere whereby the members are appreciating one another. We were in a church in Texas back in the early 80s that did a monthly time on a Sunday night just to pass out roses, in principle, by the members talking about what other members were doing to help the church and help specific areas of ministry in the church, and the direct impact and benefit they were meaning to other lives by their service and by their love being expressed through that particular ministry. So that's a great thing, and churches that do that will really be helping create a culture and an atmosphere whereby people are being affirmed and being more encouraged and emboldened to step out and to begin serving and taking up responsible areas of service and leadership, because they know they have a church family that's supporting them and encouraging them. If they mess up, they don't get kicked out or they're not jumped on. They're supported and encouraged and coached how to do it better. So that's chapter 6. And that's a very profitable read of things that he brings out. I will say at the top of 136, most of our Southern Baptist churches in the West don't know that kind of a situation. So again, you'll have to be reading this and understanding this is being written for our whole nationwide family of Southern Baptist churches. I do appreciate what he says on 137, the closing paragraph just before the summary section of this chapter. Baptist churches observe majority rule. They are democracies, or Christocracies. Christ is the head of a Baptist church. He's got some good comments, and you'll want to see that there as far as how we understand and practice doing church together. The only thing I want to say about chapter 7, it's all helpful. A lot of it's kind of outdated because of what's happened with the internet and technology, but the fact that he mentions bonds on 154 and following, and definitely if you ever want to get seriously involved in considering that, you need professional guidance. There's been many churches that really messed up their witness for Christ through the poor management of trying to sell bonds and raise monies through that process. The last chapter then is administering financial resources. All of this chapter is very helpful, and he gives very good insights and ideas for how to promote and equip the members of the church to put God first in their own financial management and in their budgets. And our churches definitely need to be addressing, and you as pastors and church leaders from your respective roles and from the pulpit, the whole issue of giving monies to the Lord. But especially throughout this chapter, he's helping you know how to budget and put budgets together in the church so that the people know their investment in God's kingdom, where it's going and why. That said, I would say that especially when you get to page 162, developing a budget, and then as he starts at the bottom of 163, and then on 164, go through that carefully. That is very wise and helpful counsel on how to put together a budget of a local church body and how to promote that budget. So the closing of the rest of the chapter is working out how that's done, and then going into how you can plan for income and what you need to know to anticipate the future income for your church. And then there again, the ideals under point number 4 on page 170, how to then lead your church's members to support the budget, to support the work of the Lord. Those are some good ideas. You would modify that and use it your own way and edit what he's saying here. But again, the principles, the ideas can be very much customized and made very profitable use of in your church. So those are some good thoughts. And then going on through number 10, all the rest of those points, read that carefully because it's very beneficial what is being said. He talks about auditing in number 9 and makes the statement, a committee whose members can do simple arithmetic can perform the audit for the majority of churches. And so read that. It's a great little insight to just doing audits that builds the trust more and also precludes unnecessary hurt of the church's total financial practices. So all this is a very, very practical chapter of chapter 8 about financial management. Thanks, guys. Hope and pray you're doing well. Any questions or things about the course again itself, you're just going to make up a book report as I passed out, and I'll include that with this YouTube video as it goes out. You'll be doing that on Powers and Tidwell and on I think that's just those two. I'll make sure that's our plan. We're going to do Malphurs in class on November 5th when we meet that Saturday morning together. All right, thanks guys. Have a great week ahead for Christ. Bye.